It is the last episode of Business Roundup this year. It has been a year full of many interesting events globally. Some developmental, whereas some confrontational, such as the US-China trade war. The UBC business team endeavored to capture some of the interesting stories on the local and global scene. However, in today's wrap, we focus on local business stories that may define 2019 and the coming years. Let's have a look at the first compilation of stories by Dennis Sigor.
The year 2018 is finally coming to an end, and for sure it has been business as usual, and as UBC Business we captured most of the trending business stories and informed you, our audience, on the developments in various sectors that impact positively in the growth of our economy. Infrastructure development was key, and in February this year the Busia one-stop border post was commissioned. The Busia OSBP is the best performing border crossing according to Trademark East Africa, the funders of the multi-million-dollar infrastructure development projects across the region. The Busia one-stop border post is the best performing of the 13 OSBPs that are fully functional. This is according to Frank Matzert, the Chief Executive Officer, Trademark East Africa.
We looked at the small businesses here in the region, and in the city rather, in the town, and it's really prospered. The volume of trade has really grown, and actually Busia has become quite a transshipment point for particularly grains and fish to then be bulked up and sent over the border. So we're thinking of doing more to make that trade grow even more.
It is the fastest in terms of efficiency. The interventions you are seeing in Busia and Mutukula and all where the one-stop border are measured independently.
The state-of-the-art border post, commissioned by Presidents Yoweri Museveni of Uganda and Uhuru Kenyatta of Kenya, was funded by the United Kingdom's Department for International Development, DFID, through Trademark East Africa to the tune of $13 million, about 47 billion Ugandan shillings.
Let us work together to open up our region. That is the way to bring true prosperity to our people, instead of putting false borders that only ensure poverty is entrenched in our place. We want to compete with the giants, and to compete with the giants, we must be also giants.
Hii kituo cha hapa bado kuna vitu ambavyo vinakosa. Tunataka waweke X-ray, vyuma vya kupiga picha ndani ya gari bila kufungua. Hii mambo ya fungua, hii mambo ya hali ya duni.
Kenya is Uganda's biggest trade partner in the region, and borders such as Busia and Malaba are critical in improving the business environment and competitiveness. In another development, the oil and gas sector also featured prominently in the big stories of the year. The Tilenga project public hearing in Bulisa district, the 4-day media tour of the Albertine Graben, as well as the recent postponement of the oil and gas production timeframe of 2020 to 2021-2022 by the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development.
Government, through the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, had targeted 2020 as the year that Uganda would start commercial oil production. However, this target has since been pushed to early 2022.
Unfortunately, it hasn't happened, and this year is now coming to an end, and that means our first oil shifts by the delay. So from now, 2020, we are looking at 2021/22.
The Albertine Graben is the principal prospective area for petroleum exploration, and the resources in these fields are now estimated at 6 billion barrels of stock tank oil, with 1.4 billion barrels of recoverable reserves.
And remember that these 6 billion barrels were after exploration in an area of about 40% of the Albertine Graben. But when we confirmed where the resources are and licensed, it only accounts for about 10% of the Albertine Graben, meaning we have an entire 90% now open for further exploration.
Amidst the inclusion of foreign companies, Ernest Rubondo, the Executive Director of the Petroleum Authority of Uganda, also boasts of the increasing numbers of national participation in the sector.
Largely, the participation of Ugandans is being monitored very intensely by the authority. We have a document of how many Ugandans are participating, how many companies are doing business, and I'm glad to inform you that these are not few. They are actually in thousands. The percentage of national content has been varying between 27% to 42%, and this depends on the activity. But we expect this to go up when the activities really come on the ground.
With more companies joining the exploration, Tullow Uganda, on the other hand, entered a sell and purchase agreement to sell 21.5% of its participating interests to Total E&P and Sinok, which leaves it with 11.7% participating interests and also leaving it as a non-operator. Despite this progress, the biggest question within the public remains the timing for First Oil. Companies are expected to take final investment decision in 2019, making the first target for First Oil in 2021-2022.
By the look of things, it is still a long wait before Uganda joins the League of the oil-producing countries. The revival of the Uganda Airlines was one of the hot topics. The contentious story trended for months. Heated discussions regarding the make of the planes, the routes to fly, the cost and the timing of the project could not be exhausted.
The engines of the last Seoul Uganda airline plane, last world in 2001, bring an end to 24 years of endurance by the debt-ridden company. The sight of the new aircraft's touchdown at the expanding Entebbe International Airport for the first time in 17 years will surely reminiscent emotions of joy. Flying the crane again is the deliberate measure government is enthusiastically pushing to implement.
In order to invigorate our services sector, the government will revive the Uganda Airlines. We have already booked slots for the manufacture of medium and long-distance planes.
The revival has excitedly been given a nod of approval to the undertaking envisaged through direct flights to save on time as well as avoid the burden of interconnections.
Uganda, being a landlocked and airlocked, is actually a logistical nightmare. And therefore Ugandans must know that we cannot be landlocked, but also have no powers over the air. It's completely wrong.
The country has made firm orders with Airbus and Bombardier Incorporated, certainly reflecting the commitment towards the implementation of the 1.4 trillion project. This is only the first step into its rather ambitious project that should have a hangar, catering and ground handling services.
That's why we need a very good board and management. They will discuss this. Some of them is airport handling, that is catering, ticketing. There are so many others where funds coming from, which could be owned or co-owned PPP with other business partners.
Although the Ugandan skies have proved lucrative to some regional flyers, like the Ethiopian Airlines and Kenya Airways, many have fallen prey to their dark side, including international giants British Airways that went parking in 2014. The battle for the Ugandan skies is not about to come to an end soon, seeing more entrants eyeing the route. Air Tanzania is the latest national airliner, scheduled to stretch wings with direct flights to Entebbe starting August.
People like me, I am trying to invest in Tanzania. And because I'm trying to invest in Tanzania, it's going to be easy for me to move up and down. You know, you can, 2 days you go, do your business, come back from Tanzania.
The revival of Uganda Airlines comes at a time giant regional flyers are facing strong headwinds, with Kenya Airways having reported a record loss of $290 million in 2015, whereas Rwanda Air made a $2.8 million loss in 2016.
These carriers mostly took advantage to overcharge and at times mishandle Ugandan travelers.
The cost that you spend to buy a ticket between Entebbe and Nairobi is the same cost that you use or spend to buy a ticket between Entebbe and Dubai.
If the Uganda airline is to stand out of the competition crowd, then habits which characterize the defunct national carrier must be avoided.
In the past, there was impunity.
This thing of saying the minister is delayed, surplus delayed a plane, nonsense that should not be entertained. And so what we should is make sure that our flights are on schedule, that we have great pilots, that we have great air hostesses, no tribalism, nothing. You just make sure that we get competent people for this national carrier to do that.
But one of the strategies implemented by opting for a particular type of aircraft has generated concern from aviation experts.
You need also to make sure that the airlines within the region, you have got a relationship. When you have a problem with your airline, they can help.
There is little debate that remains about the revival of a national airliner, as government has shown determination by placing firm orders with Airbus and Bombardier. For now, all the energies will have to be placed on ensuring that the airliner turns into a worthwhile national asset. Onyango Jackson, reporting for UBC TV.
In the modern world, a national carrier is very critical, but considering the cost of operations of an airline and years it takes to break even, reviving a national carrier is a project that needs a proper strategy and work plan for it to fly into the next century. I am the brains behind the program, as well as the producer of the Business Roundup, but today I'm giving Mark Wadulo a run for his money. Buy Uganda, Build Uganda is an initiative fronted by government through the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives. The initiative, which is steadily gaining ground, is aimed at fostering industrialization and in the long term address trade imbalance. This year, the BUBU implementation partners from the public and private sector have not relented in their efforts of promoting the production and consumption of locally manufactured products. In another revolutionary development, the Public Finance Reform Strategy of 2018-2023 was recently unveiled. Mark Wadulo compiled this report.
For decades, Uganda has been a net importer for various commodities. Concerns have been raised in the public and private sector on how the country can reduce its dependency on imports. However, the Buy Uganda, Build Uganda initiative has proved to be a game changer and revolutionary at that. African manufacturing began to develop in the 1920s during the colonial period till the late 1960s in the post-war era, where it gathered momentum, implementing import substitution. Africa was since discovered to be the continent with the richest variety of natural resources such as oil, copper, diamond, lithium, gold, hardwood forests and tropical fruits. It is with such a rich history that the United Nations General Assembly in 1989 proclaimed 20th of November African Industrialization Day. However, Uganda celebrated this day on 11th December 2018. In the quest to consolidate Uganda's industrial sector, manufacturers crafted a campaign BUBU, which is an acronym for Buy Uganda, Build Uganda.
BUBU was actually, it's a campaign that we as manufacturers pushed for from the very beginning. We found a willing partner in the Ministry of Trade and Industry because we believe that it has the potential to transform the economy of Uganda by providing market access for quality products made in Uganda.
Like in my case, I had to look for would-be competitors and convince them that we can work together and compete fairly so that we can aggregate our individual manufacturing and show government that we have got the capacity to meet the local requirements.
Under the theme promoting regional value chains, this year's celebration focused on the pathway for accelerating Africa's structural transformation, industrialization, and pharmaceutical production.
We're doing really well on the part of standards because, as you know, our Uganda National Bureau of Standards uses international standardization as it's standardizing our products. As such, anything that has a Q mark from the UNBS is something that is internationally certified. Where are the examples to show that that this is being appreciated even beyond Uganda? I've already told you that we are exporting to Nairobi, to Kenya, as far as steel products are concerned. We're exporting to Congo. our textiles are being used in Ethiopia. So that shows that the quality is appreciated even beyond our countries, and that our standard mark is indeed based on international certification.
Imports in Uganda increased to $644 million in October this year, from $559 million in September of 2018. Imports in Uganda averaged to $279 million from 1993 to 2018, reaching an all-time high of $673 million in December 2015 and a record low of $44 million in 1993. These statistics justify the need for supporting Uganda's industrial sector to improve on the balance of payment. In another development, the Public Finance Reform Strategy of 2018 to 2023 was recently unveiled. The objective of the Public Finance Management Strategy is to sustain high economic growth by establishing a centralized system of collecting revenue and redistributing it into the economy. In 2015, Parliament passed the Public Financial Management Bill into law. The bill creates better revenue collection and budget funding decisions, despite being amended several times.
But nevertheless, the further that we have gone, we are seeing dividends. So it's upon this background that now we are focusing on the new strategy, and the reform priorities for this new strategy will be to enhance revenue mobilization. At the center, we are doing a lot to mobilize revenue, but at the district, we still see some gaps.
Local governments at district level say that the gaps arose from the lack of inclusiveness in the national financial policy.
Local governments should be also left, mostly political leaders, with a way of knowing what is happening in the system. I'm the district chairperson, but I'm at the mass of my accounting office. If it's not good, I may fail to understand how transactions are being done. Can we also be considered so that we get to know what is taking place in the financial management?
The 2018-2023 Public Financial Management Strategy focuses on enhanced resource mobilization, policy-based planning and budgeting, public investment, accountability systems and compliance, improved transparency and accountability of local government public finance management, central revenue collection.
But even at the moment, if you asked me, who is a treasurer, what is your exact number of employees on the payroll, I'd probably not guess. At the risk of making a very, very big mistake because of the variations between what public service sends through the payroll, what the accounting officer says that they are aware of, we still have those issues. And it's for that result that we've taken a decision to revamp the whole payroll system at Ministry of Public Service and bring in a new system which is fully integrated with the IFMI so that we minimize human intervention in the process.
Also, the Public Financial Management Reform Strategy of 2018 to 2023 is expected to improve government's financial processes, and that is as far as revenue collection and financing the budgets between this period is concerned. However, this does not eliminate the fact that the strategy faces threats like high corruption rates and poor implementation, among others. If the strategy is to be successful, the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development needs to look over every nitty-gritty to the success of the strategy. Reporting for UBC Business, Wadulo Makanold.
In 2018, the infiltration of counterfeit products into Uganda's market has also been a serious challenge. UNBS has, however, vowed to curb the vice in order to protect the unsuspecting consumers. Farida Nafuka compiled the story.
This shoe, although looks a genuine product, is a counterfeit, imported all the way from China.
Okugeza n'engatto gye nnyambadde yino yaba China gitunulye bwefaanana engatto nagigula emitwalo egi esatu naye tena bakuweza myezi giwera 5 naye gitunulye bwekola ki bwefaanana.
Ugandans have testified to the fact that about half of the 54% of the sampled products by Uganda National Bureau of Standards are domestically manufactured. Chikubo, at downtown Kampala busy street, is one of the places awash with duplicated but substandard products. This is attributed to poverty, corruption and failure to enforce the law on counterfeit.
Really support them at all. Because at the end of that, this expired things, most people will die. Most people will get sick. For you think you're selling, but at the same time, you're going to lose market. If people...
Law enforcers themselves should be people with moral integrity. Okay? Now, if somebody who is enforcing the law has no moral authority to enforce the law, those laws will never be followed properly.
Uganda National Bureau of Standards is mandated to ensure standards and quality of products. UNBS has managed to reduce substandard products from 73% as per 2013 baseline survey to 54%. This is attributed to the pre-export verification of conformity to standards.
Then we send there a team of auditors. The auditors go, meet the company owners, go through the company records, look at how long they've been working, look at if they have been carrying out tests, look at their records, look at where do they source their raw materials from, look at a whole production chain to ensure that the company meets standards for good hygienic practices and also good manufacturing practices. Then also it has to meet the standards for product specifications.
Non-compliance to the set standards tantamount to revoking of UNBS certificates. Currently, the standards and qualities of products are first checked from their countries of production before being imported into Uganda. Uganda National Bureau of Standards is to enforce mandatory certification for local producers. But how will these interventions be effective in curbing substandard products on the market, given the loose and unmonitored production entities in the country?
Well, Uganda's niche in the tourism industry is probably unrivaled in the region. However, various challenges have to be addressed urgently for Uganda to compete favorably with the established players in the region. The issue includes curbing poaching, combating human-wildlife conflicts, in addition to enhancing domestic tourism. Let's have a look at some of the tourism-related stories, as well as the infrastructure and oil and gas new developments in 2018.
The tourism industry is the top revenue earner for government. According to official figures, tourism contributed at least $1.3 billion to Uganda's export basket in 2016. However, the sector still grapples with numerous challenges, and key amongst them is human-wildlife conflict. Preliminary findings on the death of the Hamukungu Pride of Lions at Queen Elizabeth National Park shows that the 11 lions were poisoned. This has been disclosed by Sam Wanda, the Executive Director, Uganda Wildlife Authority.
We did preliminary investigations that indicate that these lions could have been killed between the 3rd and the 8th of April 2018. We are not yet able to put a particular date. An initial forensic examinations point to poisoning as the likely cause of death of those lions. Our intelligence and investigation personnel are already working with the police and the government analytical laboratory to investigate the matter to its logical conclusion.
So far, 4 suspects who are residents of the Hamukungu fishing village in Kasese district have been arrested. However, the 4 were recently released on bail as thorough investigation led by Uganda Wildlife Authority forensic team and police continues. Lions are one of the most sought-after wild animals by tourists, and therefore the population decline, if not addressed urgently, is bound to hurt the tourism industry in the coming years. However, the industry also had some positive developments in 2018. A major one is the launch of the beautifully painted Ua buses. The 5 executive buses were acquired by government through the World Bank Competitiveness and Enterprise Development CEDE project that seeks to support reforms to improve the business environment in Uganda. State Minister for Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, Godfrey Chiwanda, says since tourism is one of the biggest sectors of Uganda's economy, there is need for more investment in critical areas to accelerate development.
Tourism is a multi-sector
business, and we work together, because much as we can promote these buses, if there are no roads, if the country is not safe, if there is no security, really we cannot promote tourism. But we thank government, one, for the security, for the infrastructure that is enabling us to promote tourism.
Flanked by a number of private sector and public sector stakeholders, Honorable Chiwanda made the remarks at the official launch of the Uganda Wildlife Authority tourism buses and Tulambule 2018 domestic tourism drive at the Uganda Museum.
These buses have cost the government of Uganda more than $800,000. That is about 3 billion shillings, the 5 that you see here.
The buses are currently being used by several conservation agencies to promote domestic tourism. Away from tourism, the lens turn to the construction of the second international airport in Uganda in Hoima district. The airport, whose construction is underway, will facilitate the oil and gas activities in the vast Albertine Graben. Hoima is fast becoming the most popular district in Uganda, and this is attributed to the fact that it is in this district that billions of barrels of oil were discovered over a decade ago. As the upstream phase of the oil and gas resource draws closer, the district is a beehive of activities. Anticipation of economic development in Bunyoro sub-region is high, and to the local leaders, the resource is already a blessing.
For us, we have started benefiting before the oil is even out, because they have renovated these health centers, they have worked on the road, they have worked on our schools. As the chairman, I said this is a benefit already. But oil is still on the ground. For us, we have started at least getting the fillers.
This and more opportunities are expected to totally transform Bunyoro region socioeconomically. In the last 4 years, cost of land acquisition, especially in areas closer to the refinery and the international airport construction sites, has skyrocketed.
Even these buildings which are coming up as a result of what? Of this project. People have moved. Actually, even the rate of plots here. Our rate here is up. You cannot even compare with Kampala rate. Because an acre here of land, it is ranging between 80 to 100 million. Everybody wants to position him or herself just next to the international airport.
The oil and gas project promises plenty of employment opportunities in thousands for both the skilled and unskilled labor.
We are doing, and personally myself, we're doing everything possible to employ as much as possible. Even I can tell you that before 2 weeks we employ at once about 40 people just from, and now in the moment out of 400 and something workers what we have.
In another development, the slow implementation of the standard gauge railway project has raised a lot of concerns, especially from the business community. In a recent infrastructural and logistics convention in Kampala, the business community highlighted the relevance of a functional, modern railway network.
So after the Beijing conference, I had to go to Chengdu somewhere to see some investors there and see what we could do. So they said, don't come by air, because I booked a flight to go there. Get on the train. It's 1,000 kilometers. To where I was going. I got on a high-speed train. I bought a first-class ticket, $100 first-class ticket. The most beautiful train I've ever been. Running at 320 kilometers per hour. In 3 hours, I was in the heart of the city. I was fresh, not tired, no headache of going to the airport and security checks and what have you. The railway is important, not just for passengers, but for passengers. We in Uganda, since Chokdam, I remember, we've been saying the one thing we need from the government, we need a train. Because we cannot say we're competing. There's no competitiveness when the cost of bringing trucks here is on, bringing goods here is on trucks. I had kids in Turi. You can't overtake when you're driving from Nairobi to Nakuru or to Kampala. Because the trucks form a train, a slow train destroying the roads. We need to demand this train, not negotiate for it. Whatever price, let's borrow and put it. We need to do things differently.
Raw materials. And just to use one example of why rail systems are critical, your steel sector that underpins the construction sector in East Africa and is going to be fundamental to the oil and gas sector rate of change here depends on a very large number of commodities being imported. It's simply not efficient to import 2 or 3 ton ingots of zinc from Zambia by road, for example. You would have an endless train of trucks that would take 8 to 10 days or possibly more coming to and from Mombasa. With an efficient rail system, you can deliver all those raw materials on time, on task, and get global development in the oil and gas sector to move faster here and get economic growth up. Now, it's obviously a decision for the government of Uganda when the right time is and what the right price is for a rail system.
The Standard Gauge Railway is a multi-billion-dollar regional infrastructural project. As the East African economies grow exponentially, the call for the quickening of the SGR construction is bound to get louder in 2019. Dennis Igoa for UBC Business.
So today the Business Roundup team gave me a run for my money and presented to you some of the stories. But now I have them here to give us a sneak peek of what 2019 has for us and maybe what 2018 has been like. Dennis, what's up?
I think 2018 has been a very interesting year, locally, globally, you can see. But of course, there are a lot of expectations in terms of oil and gas in Uganda. Okay. And you can see what has happened. Government keeps on shifting the goalposts. Let's hope it's for the better because, as you're aware, today there's been following up on what is happening in the global market. It looks like the Brent crude is dropping. So we are soon dropping to, now it's $50 a barrel. I guess the delay might work for us one of these fine days. But before I hand over the mic to David, my colleague, the man behind, every time you see me doing a PTC, he's the guy behind the camera, and sometimes Mark, is that it has been an interesting year. Festive season has been superb, but I have a message out there probably for some people. I think this is the first time that I've received so many e-cards, you know, instead of hampers, you know. For some time back, a few years back, you'll see like on a day like this, you'll see hampers arriving. But now, you can imagine even on WhatsApp, someone sends you a cake, sends you whatever. So I think we understand a WhatsApp cake, you can imagine. So I understand it has been very tough. Yeah? Right. It has been a tough year. So we're expecting that 2019 will come, bring in some new prospects. And obviously, when we close the year, I'll be the one sending the hampers as well as our guys sending the other way. You know, they say scratch mine, and scratch yours too. David, you can have the mic.
All right, David, so what's up?
Well, my heart is with the micro, small and medium enterprises. Well, 2018 has been 1 year for them to enter the market. They have been there. We're talking about financial inclusion. We're talking about tech, but it's not very late for 2019. 2019 is about a goal and a strategy to fulfill the plan. Now, not forgetting that 2019 may be the year when we are going to see the 5G platform come for you to enjoy. People are looking at it for autonomous cars and the other uses that need faster internet. Now, away from that, just remembering my heart going again to Robin Yosa, our co-producer. She's in the parks, and we've been doing tourism all year long. For you out there, please, keep it a goal and a plan to fulfill it. 2019 will be your year. Thank you.
Robin Yosa, shout outs to you. From the team and us, it's goodbye.
Yeah.